And welcome to the Combat Chats podcast. In this episode today, we're going to be talking about the upcoming UFC fight night in London. Tom ASPINALL versus TYBURA. It should be a really good one. If you get us started off in.
Yeah, so obviously last week we had it wasn't the best card to say the least, but we're just gonna a little chat about the co-main and the main because obviously Jack Della Maddalene is a big star in that welterweight division at the moment. So yeah, he had a split decision win. A lot of people saying robbery online, but I personally didn't agree it was a robbery. Did you? Who did you think won?
So I'd probably have to go with Jack just because of how active he was and
Yeah,
how much damage he did.
on the feet he was piecing them up.
I mean, in fairness, on the ground, he did lose his position quite a lot. He did give it up. But I'd say the way he defended it, even then you could potentially look at that as scoring his way. But if you just look at what he did on the feet, he basically just landed shot after shot. And I don't think that you can really make the argument that Hazafez won that. I can see why you might think it go the other way.
That was the
call it a robbery.
Yeah, that was the arm triangle in round 2 when they went to the ground. But in my opinion, that's not like a fight ending sequence. That wasn't close to finishing the fight, so you can't really score.
It's not the most scoreable metric, is it?
No. So yeah. So I think people calling robbery need to. A lot of people don't really know the rules. I think it changed like 6 years ago now, and it literally damage trumps everything. If you do more damage, you win the round, even if they hold you down for 3 minutes. So
it's one of those things as well. Like with scoring, although it is defined what scores, is still also very subjective. It's a very complicated issue. I know that they have somebody who actually scores it accurately, if you will, in the off chance that there is, a too big a dispute. But that's something completely different. Maybe that's something they should be doing. When but obviously all the judges are going to be looking at it differently.
Yeah.
Hence why you're always going to get different decisions. It's very rarely it's going to be unanimous.
I mean, it's still. I mean, Hafez took that fight on short notice, and his stock does not go down at all with that performance. Like Dana said, he's going to obviously give him another fight in the UFC. So
I mean, Jack's very experienced in contrast in the UFC anyway.
Five fights in the UFC, 5 finishes.
5 fights, and he's very good as well. He's a high level fighter.
I mean, the way he finished Randy Brown, and then Hafez to come in on his debut in a week's notice and take him to the distance and make it a very competitive fight. It's just hats off to him really for that.
You can't disrespect it at all, really, especially considering how he held his own. Maybe on a different day, if he tried something else or he's a bit more successful with his wrestling. Not as if he was unsuccessful with it. He gained control. Well, yeah.
Jumping to that guillotine constantly was just the fight IQ wasn't there in that fight.
But even then, I like I said, it's a lot of pressure. It's your debut fight, and maybe if something did work on the ground, it could have gone the other way, which I feel like Jack was at risk of the entire time. He fought that fight very, very riskily.
Yeah, even in the first round, he was standing in the pocket, and usually you see him in and out of that range, slipping the shots, but he was just standing in the pocket with his chin in the air, getting clipped as well in that first round.
And that's the thing, that's a risk, he was willing to take. Could have gone very poorly for him by doing that.
Do you think he thought like he was just going to go out there and finish the guy?
I think that when you're fighting like that, I think you'd have to think that's how they're thinking. Because there's no logical reasons to fight like that otherwise.
No.
You're not doing that to win a decision. You're not doing that to... I mean, even, he's going for sub every time he went to get taken down.
Yeah.
Like, that says it already. He's just going for that finish. The ground would have been the worst place for him to be as well.
Yeah, Hafez, Anthony Smith said on the Bisping podcast that he caused Smith problems. Smith said he wasn't a great wrestler. I feel like when he did take Maddalena down, it was because Jack was trying to jump to that guillotine. So, but his jiu-jitsu looks solid. I'm excited to see him again. Now we'll just touch briefly on the main event. In a non-disrespectful way, I guess you could say that a good thing came out of this, that we don't have to stay up till 6 in the morning to watch the Holly Holm main events anymore. But yeah, she had a hard fight. I think she got subbed in the second round. I loved how Silva was just walking her down, trying to land big shots. She wasn't phased by like the Holly Holm sort of like aura, you know what I mean?
So it was interesting to watch. Holly Holm, she stood up a lot more than I thought she would. She attempted a lot less wrestling, which I think is a good thing. Obviously, it's a bit harder for her now. She's not in her prime, so
Yeah.
it's always going to be it's not going to be what it was. But she did a lot more on the feet, and she's a lot more active on the feet. Obviously, she showed a bit of wrestling.
The footwork was solid.
But the thing with Holly Holm is you don't want to see her wrestle too much because
No.
it's not her strength.
She usually just holds against the fence. I mean, that's how she got finished in this fight.
Well,
She she kind of rushes in when people are striking against her. She'll just look to rush in and clinch instead of maybe use her good footwork and circle out. Usually she'll go straight and push you against the cage. And I mean, the submission that Silva wrapped up was nasty. Just
yeah,
snapped the head down into that front lock guillotine. It was a beautiful submission.
it's the thing. But I feel like with Silver, it's becoming a lot more common. But we're getting a lot of these female fighters who will just walk you down.
Mm.
There are a lot of fighters in that division, which if you're not in your prime, you're towards the latter stages of your career, you're gonna have a very hard time
Keep
fighting them on the feet.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that perhaps it was the right decision. I think Holly Holm's very, very good on the feet.
She was probably winning the exchange, but Silva was landing bombs. She started landing that right hand towards the end of that round one.
Trouble is when someone's landing bombs and they're walking towards you, it's not the best idea to necessarily try and exchange with the feet.
Yeah.
So yeah, overall, I mean, it wasn't an awful performance. The submission was great.
Yeah, it was a good, great. It was a good fight, and obviously when they end early and those, I mean, last week I think it was like 5:30 a.m. when I was watching the Holly Holm fight live. So when they finish early like that, I'm always happy. But yeah. So now we're gonna touch on obviously UFC London back in our own country. UFC, I think that's the third time they've come here this year, so it's massive right now in the UK. It's actually going to be my first UFC event. I've managed to get a ticket, so that's huge. I'm looking forward to that. But going on to the first fight, obviously we have the undefeated English prospect Lerone Murphy. Had a decent run in the UFC, struggled in his fights, but manages to keep getting through. I think he had like a draw or something in one of them. He's fighting Joshua Kulabau, he's a game fighter, brings it every time. I came off Contender Series with a good win. I had a couple in the UFC. I thought he's looked decent so far. Obviously fought Bagdasarian. What do you think about this matchup? How do you think this plays out?
So it's an interesting one because I think that both fighters both have their merits. They're both very good on the feet.
Mm.
I like one of the things I like about Lerone is that he's very good at managing space.
Yeah,
he's very good at distance. He's also very bouncy as well, and he's fairly accurate with his striking. He's good at utilizing that reach. I'm not sure what the reach difference is, but I know that I could be wrong, but I feel like there could be a difference.
Lerone Murphy's got half an inch, so not much.
Half an inch, so not as significant as you thought, but I think looking at him, technically he might be slightly better on the feet. Although saying that's very close. Although, I mean, in all fairness, like saying that, looking at his opponent, I mean, I don't think Kulabau's very active.
Yeah.
And he's very, I'd say aggressive.
Yeah, good footwork, aggressive.
Good footwork, and those strikes. If you're landing flurries of strikes like that,
he's a wild man.
You know, you're gonna cause some damage, or you're gonna at least tire someone out. I think depending on how Lerone decides to play this, I think if I'm honest with you, this fight could potentially be somewhat boring.
Really?
I know it's a strange thing to say.
I can't see that.
But if it does end up being a bit standoffishy, which it could be, I have a feeling it might be then. But overall, I'm gonna say Lerone takes this. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But
how do you think?
I don't see a finish.
Yeah, I mean, Kulabau's a tough guy. He comes from that bloodline. They're all tough, so it's gonna be hard to finish him. But we'll be putting our picks against each other, see who gets the most right, and so we'll reveal that on next week's podcast. But for this one, I'm going the same. I'm going Lerone Murphy. I think that on the feet he's a bit more technical and he'll be more patient. And when Kulabau will kind of be swinging and trying to land those shots, Murphy can take his time, and I think he can actually land the big one. I think I'm going to go Murphy TKO in round 2. I think once you start pushing Kulabau back, he sort of struggles to sort of think of ways to enter and make the fight really competitive, he'll kind of just try blitz him with certain strikes when I think Murphy's going to push him back, get him against the cage, and look to land those big shots.
Okay, interesting. I'm gonna go split decision.
Really? Just calling a split decision.
Split decision. I feel like these fights are just too unpredictable. In the judging anyway.
Yeah, I feel like
I feel like it's gonna be. I feel like
in
it's gonna be
England
relatively
though, and
close.
he's an English guy.
Well,
If it's close, then probably should give it to him. But no, I don't. I think he's going to prove. I feel like he hasn't really shown what he can fully do in the UFC yet. I think if you actually watch his style, to the eye test, he looks like a very good fighter. Obviously, showed good grappling defense against Amakani and managed to land the flying knee in that fight. And for me, that's been his best performance. So yeah, I think coming off that, I think obviously he was meant to fight in the family Wood, another Englishman who's on this card, but I'm glad that one didn't happen. I saw they had a bit of beef in the hotel, but yeah, I think Leron Murphy's going to show that he's on another level to what he's shown so far, and I think he'll get the finish and make it look fairly easy. Not easy, but I think that he'll manage to pull ahead in the fight
I
quite a
think
bit.
Kulabao is just so tough,
Yeah, yeah,
and it's hard to finish a tough person.
yeah. I do. Yeah, I do.
Although
Agree.
saying that, you never know. You never know. It's not. It does happen, and we'll see how tough he is.
Mm,
Not as if it's not been proven yet, but
yeah.
anyway. If you will introduce us to the next one.
Yeah, so the next one, obviously it being an English card, we've got another English fighter in Jai Herbert, who was meant to be a big prospect. If you look at him around the regional scene, he had some very big wins outside the UFC, and he's come in and he's had a few hard fights. I think he's on a bit of a win streak now. He came in and got TKO'd by Trinaldo. That was the one I think Dan Hardy might have lost his job over when he got up and started shouting at the ref. Um, he managed to beat Karma Worthy. He's had some tough fights. He's fought good people. Renato Moicano lost to, and obviously the big fight against Ori Topuria in UFC London. I think it was early this year where he landed that big head kick. I think we were watching that one together, and he did obviously get finished in the end. But this fight, it's another hard matchup. A really good kickboxer against Faraz Sahim. Sahim is a wild man. If you enter range with him, he'll start swinging knees up the middle. He throws wild hooks, but he's technical at the same time. So it's a hard matchup for Dry Herbert. How do you see this fight stylistically playing out?
So I think it's a really good point you make about the kickboxing. I feel like with Herbert, his distance management is excellent,
Mm,
and he's got such a good variety of different weapons he
yeah,
uses. He's got some excellent kicks. He's very good at protecting himself as well,
yeah,
and I feel like that's very beneficial, especially when you're fighting somebody like Parazian.
mm,
I feel like with him being so bouncy off it, you said Parazian is a wild man. I'd have to agree.
mm,
He's very much not somebody you want to get in close with.
yeah,
I feel like with Jai, this one, I could see this one being a TKO or a KO.
mm,
Definitely say.
yeah. Either way, I think.
Either way, it
Well,
depends on how they play it, though, really. It depends on if he gets walked down or not.
I think Herbert's a bit chinny as well. When he does get hit clean, you usually see him hurt from it. So, I mean, he showed his wrestling. I think it was Carl Nelson he took down and controlled. So maybe he can use that. For Asahim, I think his takedown best is he's only got 3 takedowns in the UFC. He hasn't grappled much for very long. Maybe Joy Herbert could use that. I think he's training out Team Renegade, which is obviously Leon Edwards. They got a lot of good fighters up there now from Britain. I think Arnold Allen's training there as well. So I think the camp could really. He's an underdog. I might go with the underdog pick. Like, this one's tight for me because I could see Herbert getting knocked out at any point. I think I'll give the first prediction for this one. I think I am going to go Saheem. I think Dry Herbert will be winning the fight or making it very competitive, but I can see him getting caught coming in, or maybe he can gas him out. But I'm going to go Saheem TKO, maybe round 2 or 3. Round 3, I'm going to go.
So it's interesting because with Zian, when you look at him, if you watch him fight, he doesn't really. He like you said, he's very wild, but he's wild in the sense that he will just walk towards you
Mm.
and he'll jump at you.
Yeah, yeah.
And like you said about the takedowns,
Spinning
like
elbows.
he mainly have a few takedowns, but he's definitely attempted a few.
Yeah.
Like UFC Paris.
Mm.
If you watch some of the stuff he was doing, then it was like it wasn't admittedly the best to watch from a technical standpoint.
He gave up some positions, but
regardless, it is just kind of wild. Herbert's leg kicks,
mm.
amazing. Honestly.
Yeah. I mean, this is a close fight. This one's really close.
I feel like the leg kicks. Do you reckon they'll phase him?
I mean, Zahim is he's a guy who's quite balanced. He won't stay real heavy on his front leg, but he's got those sort of that long frame, skinny legs. If Gerber can sort of dig in and land a lot of calf kicks, I think he's probably the smaller fighter, right? You'd think.
I feel like he's gonna run towards him as well, and that's just gonna like I can't see legs being too much of a concern. I think yeah, they'll get hit a few times definitely. I don't think there's gonna be much range management here.
But who are you going with in this one?
I'm gonna go. It's a really hard one. I'm gonna go with Herbert second round TKO,
Nice.
which I think could, like you said, it could go either way. But I do just think that, I mean, I feel like he's a little bit too wild, and I feel like when you've got somebody who can kick like that and somebody who can strike like that, you don't want to be getting too close to him.
Yeah.
Because before you know it,
I just worry about his chin. That's what my worry is. I think if he can stay protected and stay competitive in the fight and maybe gas him out a little bit, then I think he can take the win. But I'm just worried about him getting caught early on.
well, that's the thing. But it's pretty say it both ways, really, can't we?
Yeah. I mean, Zahim's got a solid chin. I think had a lot of decisions from his UFC fights. I don't know if he's been finished or not. I can't remember, but
I feel like these two are quite hard to call though.
Yeah.
Like these are very much could potentially go either way. Quite tight fights. Similar, maybe not so much for this one, but the one prior, stylistically.
Yeah.
And those ones are always hard to call because then it is just very much on the day.
Yeah.
It is always on the day, but especially with that.
Yes, so you're going Dry Herbert, I'm going Zaheen. Could go either way. But going on to the next fight, it's a big star here in the UK. We have Paul Craig fighting Andre Muniz. This one's a grappler's delight, really. We have Andre Muniz, who's broke Jacare Souza's arm. When you think about that, that is crazy. Just snapped Jacare Souza's arm. Souza's obviously, I think, a BJJ world champion. So, and fighting Paul Craig, who has endless submission wins in the UFC against the elites. So this one could go either way if it goes to the ground. I think on the feet, I think Paul Craig, he would have had to do a lot of work to kind of to make his fighting style. He needs to be more comfortable on the feet. And Andre Muniz does a few things. I mean, he rocked Uriah Hall, and he's done a few things on the feet, made it competitive with Brendan Allen. That I don't like this. I don't like Paul Craig on the feet against anyone, really. It worries me. So, how do you think this fight goes? Obviously, if it goes to the ground, we'll all enjoy it, but how do you think it plays out?
So, if it goes to the ground, you look at Paul Craig, he pulls off a lot of submissions when you watch a fight, you don't think to yourself, all right, when it first starts and you see how it's playing out, you're not thinking to yourself, all right, submission from bottom. You're not thinking like triangle or.
But he does.
But he does, and that's the thing. Now saying that, Muniz is very different to a lot of these fighters.
Yeah.
And although Muniz is very strong on the ground, I think if Muniz keeps on the feet, Paul Craig, his head movement isn't great. He's generally quite static. He's got a bit of a slow start, which isn't necessarily a bad thing in all cases. But in a situation like Paul Craig's, he's just, when you haven't got that movement and when you haven't got that level of evasiveness, you can't be slow to start like that. I think if it goes to the ground, it's hard to call really because you can't disparage him on the ground.
No, he can triangle choke any man on the face of the planet.
And Andre Muniz is going to be incredibly difficult to submit. However, you never know.
If there's a man who can submit someone like Andre Muniz, I mean, Jacare Souza couldn't do it, but if Paul Craig wraps up that triangle choke, then he can submit anyone. And I think now the sort of blueprint's out there. You just don't let Paul Craig go to his back and enter his guard. It's just not a smart thing to do. We've seen him. I think he's got the latest submission in UFC history. Submitted Ankalaev, who looks like he could go on and become champion now. Submitted Jamal Hill, who has just vacated his title through injury. So he's beat elite people with his submission, but those submissions. But I don't think the 205ers, the light heavyweights, have the same sort of grappling ability as these middleweights. And we see that with Andre Muniz. him being able to submit Jacare Souza and a lot of other great fighters, I think Paul Craig will really struggle with that. So yeah, I can't see Paul Craig subbing him, but maybe if he enters his guard.
You never know. I think that this fight, I think the best way Muniz would go about it would be on the feet.
Yes.
Because Muniz has some excellent kicks. He's he's very, very agile.
Yeah.
And he's got a great range. He's kicking everywhere. And I think with Paul Craig, with his relatively poor head movement, with his just lack of agility in general, and I think that you look at Muniz as well, he can throw from a decent range. I personally think that's going to be a big issue. Obviously, you can only give one prediction. Staying on the feet, I think it could potentially be first round knockout.
Really?
I mean, I just don't trust it.
Yeah.
We're saying that this could also very much go to the ground.
I hope it goes to the ground.
And I hope it's not a first round knockout because he's from the UK.
People will be going nuts for Paul Craig as well. I can't wait to be there in his entrance. I mean, people go crazy for Paul Craig over here. He's just such a personality. So hopefully he gets the win, and we'll probably just see him running around the town, around the city of London on a night out afterwards. But yeah, I think my prediction. I'm gonna go on. Yeah, I'm gonna go Andre Muniz, man. I was gonna let my bias ruin my actual cloud of view, but it's obviously Paul Craig's first fight middleweight. He's a big guy. I don't know how that weight cut's gonna affect him, but I'm just praying that Andre Muniz falls into a triangle choke. That's just my hope.
That would be awesome to see, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So, who have you got in this one?
Muniz. I'm gonna go second round KO. I really just think that's how it's gonna go.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go second round TKO as well. I think Paul Craig will survive the first. He has got some dangerous head kicks. Paul Craig is caught Usman with a few of them, but he doesn't really have the full force on them. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, Paul Craig, if he can get the win, I'm sure the place will go wild for him. And I think his retirement's coming. He was talking about it not that long ago, but he obviously went on a very good run. So we'll just see how it plays out. Hopefully, he can get the job done.
Should be very good. Moving on to the next one, Nathaniel Wood, Andre Philly.
Yeah, for me, this is my fight of the night. I think this is a great stylistic matchup. I think it's a great matchup for Nathaniel Wood. Andre Philly always brings it. You know, he's been in some exciting fights. I remember not that long ago I went back and watched his fight with Artem Lobov, and even back then it was crazy. And he's trained team alpha male, but he's been a very up and down fighter. So I think the styles kind of play into Nathaniel Wood's game. Andre Philly's very heavy on his front leg, and Nathaniel Wood's got some of the best leg kicks in the UFC. He's just such a technical striker. I think I can see Andre Philly really struggling to deal with him on the feet, and I don't think he'll take it to the ground. So there's only one way I can see this one playing out. What about you?
I think, like you said, it's going to be challenging for him. I think one of the things Philly is very good at is keeping his range. And he, even when he's getting backed up, you can still see no one's, let's be honest, no one's really comfortable getting backed up.
No.
But watching him getting backed up, it's not the most panicking thing. It's not the most concerning. It's not like he's being overly pressed. He's got a great range of weapons. Nathaniel Wood, very, very good.
Yeah,
and
I'm
great.
so high on this guy. I think he can go really far in this division. He's so technical.
I think though, like you said about the technicality, I think that's what's gonna edge it. I think that if he gets caught, then it's game over. But I mean, even then,
the head kicks is what I'm worried.
That's what I mean.
His weapon in it,
especially when when you got someone backing up like that and they've got the range because of it, because they're being given room. That's the concern. Obviously, it going to the ground. I mean, so looking at this, I'm not going to go for a KO TKO. I think it's going to be a decision.
Yeah, I can see that.
I think it's going to be Nathaniel Wood.
I'm going to go Nathaniel Wood decision as well.
But
I think it'll be a dominant victory. I think it'll hurt Philly, and it'll be a bit of a beating, but Nathaniel Wood's not won't ever rush you. I think a lot of his wins are by either submission or decision off the top of my head. So yeah, I think Nathaniel Wood decision's a smart one here. Um, I mean, I hope that this could be a bang of a fight because Philly's tough and he's been in some scraps. So if he can draw Nathaniel Wood into that dogfight, which will be very hard to do, that's the way he can win, in my opinion.
No, I'd agree.
Yeah.
I would agree. I think that like you said, the head kicks is just so dangerous, and
Yeah.
that's what he's gonna have to be
Caught a
cautious
lot
of.
of
But
people
I feel like that's also something which a lot of fighters have to be cautious of, no matter who they're fighting. Really.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
so maybe not always to this extent.
you're lining up against Ben Askren. I don't think you're watching for head kicks.
Well, no, you're watching for knees.
You're
Well, he's watching for knees.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on to the next one. This is I'd say exciting. I feel like it's a bit the matchup isn't.
It's tailor made.
Yeah, well, it's one way.
Well, we say that, right? But Molly McCann, her takedown defense is okay. It's not bad, but if she gets Storyalenko, I mean, I remember you speaking about it on one of the pods a while back. Her arm bars are dangerous, and she got her first win in the UFC through armbar. A lot of wins outside the UFC with armbar. Do you think there's any chance she can get Molly in one of those positions and submit her?
As long as she can stay up for already.
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it?
See, trouble is if Molly gets taken to the ground, which could potentially happen,
Yeah, maybe.
then she's in a lot of danger. A lot of danger. Storylink is very good on the ground. You know, it's not just armbar she's good at, although she is surprisingly good at armbars.
I swear it's like most of her all of her submission wins but one are by armbar or something like that. I can't remember the stat.
Armbar specialist.
Yeah,
you know,
literally.
that's like, but I mean, if Molly's on the feet, she takes it. Storylink, she's been seen as very aggressive. She just kind of charges at you.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's not really what you want to do in Molly McCann. If you can get a takedown, if you decide to go around that route, then fair point. But Molly McCann is incredibly dangerous on the feet.
she's so aggressive. She is like a pit bull.
It's actually nuts. What was that? Was it a spinning elbow?
Yeah, she got two, didn't she? It was I can't remember. Maybe Jocelyn Edwards? No, I don't think it was Jocelyn Edwards. But yeah, she got two of them, and she got one spinning elbow where it was the TKO. But let me see, it was the Hannah Goldie fight. That was the one she TKO'd her, and then the Luna Carolina fight. That was the brutal. I think that might have been knockout of the year. The spinning elbow. Left her on the floor unconscious for a while. That was a scary one. I remember watching that.
She was taking a beating though beforehand, and it was just
Molly's just an animal, wasn't she?
like but I mean that's that level of technique.
The way she just blitzes and mixes the boxing combinations up. You don't see a lot of women in that weight class who can throw combinations like that, and that's always a dangerous thing. I think Storyalenko is going to really struggle with that.
How about speed as well?
Yeah,
it's rapid.
It's crazy.
It's
And you know the thing that frustrates me a bit is Molly. She's rash. You know she can get a bit like carried away on camera, and people find that annoying, and you see a lot of hate online. But I think people like to hate on Paddy Pimblett obviously because of how big of a star he was. I think Molly and him being such close friends, people when he does something ridiculous kind of brandish her with it too. And I think people, if you really dig into her stories, like she's got a great story, she's got a great mindset for MMA, and she's just trying to be the best. And I can't wait to see her fight. I hope she gets the job done, and I think she will. And I'm gonna go first round TKO. I think she'll hit her with a body shot and drop her.
I think. I don't know about a body shot, but I think it's gonna be a TKO regardless. It might be a body shot first round.
Yeah.
I think that it's I think that if Storyalenko does get to the ground, then it's either going to be a relatively long fight where she's on the ground for the majority of the
I think Molly can survive on the ground. I don't think it's over if it goes to the ground.
No, neither do I, because Storyalenko, she's good on the ground, but
she's not super high level. She's not like a Blanchfield who just tore Molly's arm off, or even maybe not even like Talia Santos who Molly went the distance with. So
black belt and arm bars.
Yeah,
but no, there's so much more than that.
That's disrespectful, but it's a joke.
But no, I think if Molly can't keep on the feet, if she defends that takedown on the feet, TKO, KO, whatever
Yeah,
it
it
may
might
be.
be a knockout cold. She's
Like
got serious power.
spinning elbow.
Yeah, it might
You
be
never know.
another.
You never
Yeah,
know. You know when someone's coming at you like that,
yeah.
perfect opportunities pop out. But yeah, no. I think that fight is relatively certain
Mm.
in my opinion. Not to say that Storylinka doesn't have a chance, but I don't feel like it's the
Much
right
of a
matchup for
chance.
her.
No, no. And Storylinka, let's be real, she's got one win in the UFC over Jessica Rose Clark, who has a real problem with being submitted and just beat in general, if we're going to be honest.
Well,
But yeah, so Storylinka, I don't think she's a. I think if Molly McCann's on her A game, I don't think she's really on the level to compete with her. So that's why Molly TKO first round. I'm moving on to the main event, which again I think is a good matchup for Tom Aspinall. Obviously, he just had a year off with his knee injury. It was the exact arena last year that this happened in, so he'll be fighting his demons going back there to the same scene it happened and fighting Martian Tybura, who, let's be real, he's a jack of all trades, a very good MMA fighter, been in there with some of the best heavyweights, and made a lot of these fights competitive. But I think Tom Aspinall, he's got a new training group. His dad's brought in heavyweights from all over Europe, KSW champions, ONE FC fighters, all heavyweights that Tom's grappling and training with every day. And I think that will make a really big tell in this fight. I think he's going to come back so sharp. How do you think stylistically, this one really plays out?
stylistically, I think this is going to be a really hard fight for Tom. I think,
Really?
yeah, I do, because with Tabura, if there's one thing Tabura's really, really good at, it's how tough he is.
Mm.
Now, obviously, Tom Aspinall, I wouldn't know how powerful he is, but I imagine he's super powerful.
The
Otherwise, he
size of
wouldn't
him.
just keep doing what he does
I think
every single
all
fight he
first
has.
round finishes.
You know, you don't just do that if you've got like relatively average power for your division.
Like
Not
speed
at all.
as well. Speed kills, and he's got some of the fast. Him and Cyril Garner by far the fastest heavyweights.
Tabura though, Tabura, he's just he's a tank.
Yeah,
He will just take it and take it and take it.
he's a quick guy himself as well. I thought. I mean, I think of him as a bit of a sloppy fighter, but when you actually watch some of his movements, his fight with Romanov, he handed him his first loss, I believe. So he can move well himself, but in my opinion, Tom Aspinall does everything better than Tybura, and I think stylistically it's a good fight to come back to. If he wants to show how, like, he was fighting Curtis Blades, probably one shot away from that title shot. It might have even been him fighting John Jones instead of Cyril Gane. So imagine how the heavyweight picture could be now. That fight could have gone differently with Tom's grappling. But I think he's going to come out aggressive. He comes out so fast, and I think he's actually going to finish Tybura in the first round too.
Okay.
I do. I think he's going to carry on the trend of these first round finishes. Obviously, getting finished in the first round last time, but it's still going to carry on. I think he comes out and he's just going to be too quick early on. I think Tybura takes a while to kind of settle into the fight, and I think Tom's just going to catch him early. I think he could take him down and submit him, but I think coming back after the injury, he'll want to make a good viral scene in the O2 where the knee popped out last time, and he's going to want to go viral with a big knockout, and I see that happening.
See, this is interesting though, because something to maybe think about. I mean, it might not be that impactful whatsoever. He's come back from a knee injury.
Yeah,
Where's his explosion?
Mm.
You know, is he going to be as explosive as he once was?
I mean, he says, I mean, obviously he's going to say this, but he says his knee is better than it ever has been before now.
But this is the thing with Thomas Mignour. Obviously, he's got a very good takedown defense.
Well,
and he's
we haven't seen much. We've just seen him taking people down. But you assume he's got very good grappling.
But when you have seen him on the odd occasion, he's good at getting in that position. I mean, looking at Tabora is somebody. If he does get you to the ground, he's not looking to sub you. Like he will just strike you on the ground. Aspinall is going to be very hard to throw to the ground.
Yeah, I think Aspinall's jiu-jitsu is one of the best at heavyweight. Like, his bottom game looks solid. He's straight arm bars. We've seen him get a lot of good submitted Andrei Arlovski. We've seen him use jiu-jitsu a lot so far in the UFC as well as knockout power.
For like Tabora as well, that's not where he wants to be.
No,
because he's not done excellently on the ground.
I think the way Tybura wins this fight, he's got to survive the early rounds, sort of drag Tom into deep wars and just make it a dirty fight and bring Tom to a place he's never been, because I'm sure Tom's body will not react well if he gets into those third, fourth, and in those championship rounds.
I don't know if it could go out farther.
No,
I don't know if it physically possibly could
no,
go
me
20
either. That's
minutes
why I'm going
plus.
Tom, because I would be very surprised if TYBURA finishes Aspinall.
Uh,
I'd be very surprised.
it's when you're as technical as that. Not to say that TYBURA isn't technical at all. You know, like you said, you first watch him, you might think he's a bit sloppy, but he's actually not.
No,
He's very
yeah.
fast for somebody his size.
Yeah, he is.
You know, he's not like rapid or anything, but he's fast
Great
enough,
cardio as well.
and he's quite relentless. And yeah, the cardio, like something, you know, you watch him between each round, the way he regenerates,
Yeah, I think
it's
that's
like he's walking out for the first round.
I think that's what makes him what makes him be like a top 10 fighter for this long is he's able just to outlast a lot. Like Romanov was 16-0 when they thought he was smashing guys, great boxing, great wrestling, and TYBURA always seems like he should be outmatched in those sort of matchups. But he just drags people. It's a bit like the Neil Magny of heavyweights. He drags people into those deep waters, and he keeps knocking off those contenders and just staying in that spot. But I don't think Tom's one of those contenders. I think he's an elite heavyweight, and I think that's what's going to get the job done.
I think I don't reckon it's gonna be first round. I think it's gonna be second round. I think Thomas Spinner is gonna knock him out. But I think this is gonna be the fighter which is gonna take him to the second round.
Yeah,
Sounds
crazy to
say. I mean, it could be very much over fairly quickly.
I hope it goes a few rounds. I'm there. I want to see a few rounds, see what Tom goes. It feels like in the later rounds.
I mean, obviously, I want to see Thomas Spinner come out on top, but I want to just see how TYBURA does because TYBURA he's not someone you can underestimate at all. And I feel like, you know, I could be wrong in saying this, but I feel like a lot of people are going to be underestimating him.
He's coming in a lot more shredded this fight as well. He usually comes in looking a bit more pudgy than one of the pudgy heavyweights.
Just
but
an average heavyweight.
He's come in more ripped. He lost a lot of the fat, so I reckon he might even be weighing like around 240. He might weigh in there. We'll see. So
be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go second round. Aspinall.
Yeah, I'm gonna go first. So we've gone against each other with only one fight. I think that was a Dry Herbert one. So we'll go back and listen, and we'll find out what rounds we pick and see how we're doing that. So that's obviously the end of the breakdown of the card. There is one more topic I want to bring up that's been all over the news. It's crazy because boxing is a bit of a mess right now. Where Tyson Fury should be fighting Usyk, he's agreed a deal, I think, in Saudi Arabia to fight Francis Ngannou. Obviously, Francis gets his massive money fight. He's been wanting that. How ridiculous do you think that matchup is? Tyson Fury boxing Francis Ngannou. Like, surely there's no way Francis can land that big shot, right?
I mean, it is Francis Ngannou.
You can tell we're MMA fans.
Nah, but it's one of those things that you see these MMA fighters, and they go into boxing and they don't always do anything.
Never really do anything.
No, Anderson Silva.
Yeah, Anderson does look good.
That might be the only example ever.
Yeah.
But no. Tyron Woodley. Well.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that
one. I mean, he was a champion in something.
Yeah.
You know, Ben Askren.
Ben Askren looked great in the boxing ring.
To be fair, I mean, you know, you could tell his striking was just like...
It's always been elite, really, hasn't it? We've always known.
Nah, to be fair, but you can't disrespect Ben Askren until he's a champion for a reason.
Anyway, getting back to the main topic. Fury and Ngannou. It's crazy that Fury he's not unifying his belts. He's not going. He claims he's one of the greatest heavyweight of all time. When you look at, I think he's had like 4 title defenses. You look at even Anthony Joshua's had 7. So I think I'm right there. Don't quote me on that, but
I think talks to a matchup like this.
I think it's agreed. Silly. I'm pretty sure it's done.
Well,
yeah,
silly.
Fair enough. Silly. Francis Ngannou. I'm happy for Francis. I mean.
Probably a big payday out of it.
Shoves it up Dana's ass a bit as well. Dana obviously said that fight would never happen, the big fallout. But, you know, deep down we just want the Francis Ngannou John Jones fight. And it doesn't look like we're ever going to get that. That's the main one we'll miss, I think.
Instead we're going to get Tyson Fury.
Tyson Fury just dancing around Ngannou for rounds. I think, we'll give a prediction. I think Tyson Fury smokes Ngannou.
I don't know if this deserves a prediction.
You can't give you a prediction. You're embarrassed by the come on boxing, but hey, we got some good boxing matches coming up. We got Terence Crawford, Errol Spence. We got some good ones, but this one is not painting in glory on it, and a lot of people in boxing aren't happy. But hey, I'm happy for Francis Ngannou. Go on, give a prediction.
It's Tyson Fury. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way it's
You
not.
think I'll knock him out? I think I'll knock him out.
I mean, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, you think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah, this is.
Maybe
I don't know.
not, though. Watch Francis Ngannou smoke him.
If he smokes him, my God, if he beats Tyson Fury up, I'll go crazy.
That would be nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not gonna happen, but
No.
it might. Though it might. You never know. It's that one punch. You know,
Yeah, it is Francis Ngannou.
before you know it, it's like getting hit by
What
a
is it?
spaceship or something.
Okay. A spaceship.
Well,
a car.
Well, yeah.
Spaceship. No, but I don't know where they got those stats from. I don't know if they're true or not. But anyway,
it's cool. It's cool at least.
So anyway, that's been this week's episode of the Combat Chats podcast. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at the Combat Chats podcast. We'll be looking to do YouTube soon. We'll be back with the podcast every week, so make sure you follow.